back. What's up, everybody? Benja Welldone coming at you live on this beautiful Corona-free day. Today is Monday, May the 25th at 5:43 in the morning. How are you doing? So, magic, music, and comedy. Man, what can I say about that? Well, here's the thing. I had an interesting conversation with somebody the other day, and I thought it was so interesting. I just figured I'd do like a thought experiment and just bring it up so you guys, the listeners, right, can think about this. And if you don't want to, you can turn it off now. That's fine. But I think it's pretty interesting, so stick along. So, what makes comedy so different in comparison to magic and music is that, starting with magic, what's so great about magic is that you really are just seeing the best part of a magic trick only at the end, right? And that's the magic of it. You don't see all the hard work they put into it. But the thing is, they can essentially do it completely in the shadows. They can just do stuff without an audience, and they can get better at it, right? In music, you typically work on it with someone else, okay? Whether it's in a band, or someone works with your lyrics, or if you're singing or something like that. It's kind of inconsequential if you have a beautiful voice, because regardless of whatever you sing, it's going to sound great. I mean, you've heard about musicians coming up with whole albums in the studio, and they know what sound they have and what sound they like. And when they release it to the public might be like, oh, I like songs 1, 2, 4, and 8, right? They come up with a whole album essentially by themselves. Well, here's the thing. How much better do you think their music would be, hypothetically? And this is just, it's not really a possibility as far as music goes, realistically. But how much better do you think it would be if these musicians came up with songs and they were working on them before they knew it was a bad song to keep working on in front of a crowd? So now you got magic, where they work on everything with nobody. All right? Music, where they work on everything almost with nobody. And there's some little people-to-people interaction, you know, being like, hey, I think we need to make this bass a little bit harder, you know? And then there's comedy. You do it 100% with other people. And the song, so to speak, does not progress at all until I get verification. Now, it's interesting, verification from the listener, you know, because unlike magic, there's so much space and minutes and seconds that aren't being done anything impressive at all, except until the end of a magic trick, you know? And it's so funny because when maybe a comedian will come out with a special, you don't see how bad and awful it was leading up to that point, okay? But the difference is, if a magician comes out with like a string of tricks, okay, the whole time they haven't necessarily been getting verification that their trick works before they do it, because they can work on that card trick 1,000, 10,000 times, whatever, etc. They can work on doing breath holds or some amazing feat of dexterity or flexibility or whatever, right, to get out of some tight space or something like that. And they can use all that practice, hours, minutes, seconds, days, etc., weeks, whatever, you name it, months, in the shadows, right? But in comedy, every single step of progression that you make has to be made in front of people that think you are the least funniest person ever, followed by, hey, that person is actually not that bad, and then it leads to, that was some funny shit. It's such a weird thing because, like, I try to develop all my material in a lot of ways in the most magical way possible. And I do that, you know, I've mentioned this before, in the shadows, so to speak, not literally. But I develop everything off stage, because when I'm on stage, if you've heard me say a joke or something like that 10 times, and the first time wasn't funny, and the second time, you already know the misdirection of where I'm going. You already know the end of the story. I just got to keep working on it through other people. I only have one opportunity to have a first-time reaction, a first impression for everybody that I talk to, for everybody I do a joke at, right? And my jokes aren't really jokes, they're actually stories. And I try those stories. When I mean everywhere, I literally mean everywhere I go. If I'm at a gas pump for a couple minutes, I'll try one sentence, two sentences, 1 minute, whatever I can get. The checkout line. I'll go to a park. Not really go to parks, but I'll give you an example, right? I will go to the mall. I will go to bus stations. I develop everything off stage. When I get on stage, it is absolute fire. It is greatness. It is excellence at your finest, and I'm killing it, right? And that's been such a great tool. And this whole Corona pandemic period, it really taught me. Sorry, the road is a little loud. This whole Corona pandemic period really taught me how to get better in a different way, and in a way that other people not just aren't doing it, but a way that's better than everybody else. Seriously, I get feedback with all of my sets, all my information, and the amount of metrics, keyword metrics, as far as math goes, are above and beyond compared to. I'm basically taking the best elements of magic and working stuff off stage, so to speak, and bringing it to comedy. So, yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I just think it's so fascinating and interesting that, there is an art form called magic where you do tricks and you can do them relatively, and maybe even physically, literally, in complete darkness. If you're escaping in a tight space, or you're doing a card trick or whatever, and when it's finally done, you take it out and you say, "Hey, I have something really great I want to show you," and it's really impressive. But leading up to that, there's a lot of silence. There's a lot of unimpressiveness. You know what I mean? With music, there's no misdirection. It's 100% a direct attack. I'm saying something beautiful, I'm doing something beautiful, I'm singing, I'm dancing, keeping entertained, blah, blah, whatever, right? So you got magic with misdirection, and if it's like a direct way of showing you how amazing something is, and you know what is going to be revealed, like somebody says, I'm going to pull this out of a hat and a sword out of a hat. It has to be such a long sword that it's above and beyond your potential expectation to be impressed, right? So you can kind of attack like the misdirection and the entertainment aspect, so to speak, and the amazement aspect in a couple different ways. Indirectly, say I'm looking over here and then something comes over there, you know what I mean, with magic, or the direct attack, which is, I'm going to make this whole building disappear. And what I don't tell you is that I'm going to make something else appear in place of it, like a different building or something, whatever. But you have none of that misdirection. It's just an onslaught, so to speak, really, of beautiful sounds with music. But comedy is the complete opposite of all the above. You have to work on everything in front of everybody. You have to go through having it be really bad on all the working phases of it, looking not funny and stuff like that, which I don't care about, but the interesting thing is that it is interesting. It's interesting that out of all of these, unlike magic, I have to work on it in public, right? And interestingly enough, also, instead of unlike magic, where it's completely quiet or unimpressive until the very end, I have to be impressive the whole way leading up to the big reveal, the big joke at the end of whatever thing that I'm talking about. It's just, if you all lay it all on a table, on paper, depending on the individual, right, you could make an argument. I don't really like saying argument, but regardless, the comedy is the hardest of all of them, because you aren't able to really work on it in a studio and know that something is successful. There is no periods of silence, and it's constant misdirection. And if I am directly talking about something, I have to say something that is potentially so amazing, over the top to get your attention, even if it's obvious, you're elevated past that point of what you thought that you would be when I tell you this direct information. So anyway, that's all I got. It's just to me, it's just really interesting because that's who I am. I'm a comedian. I'm also a warrior, soldier, army vet, right? Amongst other things. And right now, I'm rolling into the gym to start some. I should start calling it submission wrestling, because no one ever really heard of what the jujitsu is, Anyway, so with that being mentioned, I'm Benja Welldone. Y'all have a beautiful day. And I think there is one more thing to say. But, it's just this, in no way I don't want you to think that I'm complaining about the whole process, because the reality is I am who I am, and I love the process. I love the process of the jujitsu when I'm working on any aspect of the martial arts. I love the process of comedy, everything from coming up with a joke, writing it, trying it out. And the biggest payoff is always at the end when I say it and I finally get it right. And I say it to somebody new and they think, wow, he got it right the first time. And that's the biggest magic of it all. Just think about it like this. Whenever you watch a comedy special again, just realize that's actually a magic trick all on its own, because they worked on everything else before you saw it. They aren't just like consistently, randomly funny, 100% successful, But I love the whole part of it. And then the second I get done something right, I take one deep breath of like excitement and relief and happiness and joy and everything. And the next breath after that, I literally inhale my next idea of work. And the process starts all over again from zero, having to talk with people and having it not be funny and then working it to funny again and over and over and over again. So, but yeah, I love the process. I love everything about it. So it's just really interesting to me, but that's just me. Anyway, with that being mentioned, I hope everybody has a beautiful day. I'm Benja Welldone. Thank you for listening. Maybe you got entertained a little. Maybe I got you thinking a little bit. Anyway, have a great day and see you later. I'm out. Peace.